Welcome back to another episode of The Real Deal, where you'll get more history, more real history than you'll ever learn from the school books, which are watered down like crazy. They give you little facts and information that they want you to believe. Basically, it's like General Electric here, sponsoring this book, says that we created electricity. We founded it. That's what you get. You got to look at who publishes these books and how much money do they make off those books, those companies. They're going to tell you what they want you to hear. They won't tell you the truth. You might get a little bit of truth here and there. But from me, you're going to get the real deal, the real truth. And today, we're going to talk about a little bit about the history of North America. Let's just go a little further. The United States and the people that settled here and why. And then we'll jump into the newest thing about Donald Trump outlawing flag burning. Trust me. It's all connected, people. So, in North America, it's been around a long time, obviously, since Earth. It was conquered, well, not conquered, but, settled by the Paleo Indians, who basically more than likely came across the Bering Straits. That's what it's called now when it freezes over. And, you would have people of different races breeding. And that's where North American people came from. And that's where what we call the Native Americans, or what Columbus called the Indians, that's where they came from. And they've been here forever. And this was their land. And you hear the stories how they coexisted peacefully, but that's not true at all. There was a lot of hatred between all of them. There was several that coexisted. There were some that got along. They would intermarry. They had a lot of rules. They had a lot of gods, just like every other religion does, every other culture does. It's just you don't hear about it as much because, honestly, most of it was destroyed by the white man when they took over this country and colonized it. And most people don't care. Plain and simple. That's how it goes. But the white man started coming over here that it's documented on. The first white people to hit North America were the Norse, what most people would call the Vikings. And they went to what's called Greenland now, and they kept going. They were explorers. They were looking for land. They were looking for gold. They were looking for diamonds, whatever they could get. Like most people when they relocate, like the 49ers in 1849. They went out to California because there was a lot of gold out there. There was, but it wasn't the common man getting it. But anyway, the Norse came over here. And it's documented. There's about 1,000 in the Common Era, right before 1,000 Common Era, that they actually hit what's modern day Canada, basically Quebec. And so Leif Erikson was one of the first ones here. There's another guy whose name I can't say. He cited it first. It would be 986 Common Era, AD, whatever you want to refer it to. I call it CE. The Common Era, but I can't say the guy's name. It's Bjarni, and it's a big old long name, and I don't want to desecrate his name like that and say anything and make it sound stupid. But Leif Erikson was actually on that ship and was one of the first ones here. But the other guy discovered it. And that was almost 500 years before Columbus came here. And now Columbus never came into the United States area. He basically was down in the Bahamas area. And when he died, to his death, that day, he was still convinced he found a shortcut to India. That's where the name the Indians come from, because he was convinced he found a shortcut to India. Took back a bunch of people as slaves. Good job, Columbus. Slavery's been around forever. By the way, good job. That was sarcasm. Not a fan of Columbus, He got money for this. There was profit to be made and stuff. So then it opened up. Word started traveling all throughout Europe, because they communicated, not like we do now where it's instant, but, a month or two later, people heard about it. And then you had people coming from Britain and Spain and France and the Netherlands, and they all started settling here in America. Now, the Netherlands, they moved to what they called New Amsterdam, which is New York City today. Britain, they came here to escape religious persecution. There was a group of them that were really being persecuted. They had broken off from the Catholic Church. They had broken off a different sect, basically, from the Protestant church, and they were being persecuted for that. Religious persecution was a huge thing back then. Heck, what am I saying? It's still there today. Good Lord. People criticize somebody because they don't believe the way they do. You're going to hell because you don't think like me. Okay. What if there is no hell? Then you did all that for nothing. Don't even get me started on the hypocritical Christians out there right now. But these guys were persecuted. They came over and settled Jamestown, the Pilgrims, Plymouth Colony in 1620, Jamestown in 1607. And they basically came here for religious freedom. And then Britain heard about this, and they started sending people over here for other reasons. They started settling, and other countries did the same thing. Ponte de Leon, he hit Florida coast. I mean, all these people were coming over here. John Cabot came over here. He was over in 1497 off the coast of what's now Newfoundland. Jacques Cartier, he was here 1534, if I remember correctly. He was from France. I mean, these guys came here, and they weren't just looking for religious freedom. Many of them were looking for riches. Many of them were looking for land. They started bringing people over with them, and they got here, and they took the land from the natives because they had something the natives didn't have. Guns. They had guns. Gunpowder was made by the Chinese in about the 9th century. And it took a long time before they started coming up with guns after that, because back then they were using it for like cannon powder, basically. But then they had like hand cannons is what they called them. Those came out in 1280. And they were all through Europe. So when these people came here, they had guns. Many natives tried to live, coexist. Others hated these people for coming, taking their land. And that's what it was. Many of these countries were sending their own people in, and they were working, representing the government. They weren't there for themselves. They were there for the government, but they would get a cut of something, Kind of like today, when you work for the government, you get a big cut. It's called corruption. Nothing's changed, people. So they would come, and they would take all this land in the name of England. And England would say, yep, that's ours. And the natives would be like, oh, yeah, and they shoot an arrow at the guy, and meanwhile they're dead because the gun is, a lot faster, a little more accurate. It's kind of sad what happened. But these countries all came here. Many of them were for colonization's sake. Many of them came here for military conquest, too. They liked that power. They wanted to expand. And a lot of them weren't just coming for freedom of religion. That was a small group of them. Now, the first Jewish man came here. He actually was with the Jamestown colony. And it was about the late 1580s, early 1600s. But he left. He went back over to Europe. But the first Jewish colony was here. And it wasn't really a big colony. But in 1604... there was a permanent settlement from the Jewish community. And if you know anything about Jewish history, you'll know that no matter where they go, they're persecuted, especially by Christians. And they were kicked out of every country for whatever reason. You'll hear the racial stereotypes. Well, that's because they had all the money. Here's the deal. Jewish people, according to the Jewish law of the Torah and the Tanakh, mainly the Torah, you're not allowed to lend money to another Jew and charge interest. But you can charge to non-Jews and charge them interest. And that's what they did. And so they would sell things and work things, and they were bankers. Nothing wrong with that. But these other countries would borrow money, and a lot of Jewish people were doing quite well. A lot of these bankers, especially like England and France, they would owe them a ton of money. And instead of paying them back, they'd kill them or they'd kick them out of the country. And that's what was going on. So the first Jewish settlers came here. They started setting up. And believe it or not, history will show that they were the ones that actually coexisted with the natives. They're like, hey, look, man, we'll buy your land. We don't want this. And the natives were like, you can have this land. It sucks. You can have it. And they turned it into something good. They got along with them because they, like other countries, the Jews know what it's like to be oppressed. So they came here seeking religious freedom. They weren't here for land grab and opportunity. They were like, hey, look, we got land. They settled in New Amsterdam, and that didn't go too well. A lot of persecution there. And New Amsterdam became New York. It's a whole long story there. It's crazy over there. But a lot of the people were coming here to escape government oppression. There was a lot of that going on back then. Still going on today. They were trying to escape religious and political persecution from all these different groups out there, especially if you disagree with somebody. They would lock you up. They would kill you. They would it was horrible. They had rules. Did you know vagrancy? There was a law in the books in America, even in the USA, for vagrancy. They could lock you up for vagrancy. And they could define vagrancy. Now they call it homelessness, and it's a problem, and we should feel bad for them, which we should. There's no reason for this. We know why. It's high rents and a lot of other things. But they would lock you up for that, and they could kill you for that. And that was the United States. Other countries, there was nothing going on. You couldn't stand up for yourself. Lawyers, they weren't there for you. They were there for money. Man, not much has changed, has it? Anyway, so what I'm trying to explain is these people came to the United States for freedom. Most of them. Some were greedy, but a majority of them came for freedom. They were being oppressed in their homelands. They came here. They wanted to be free. And for most part, they were, until certain countries and cultures took over and started oppressing them, making them pay and everything like that. So, you know what happened in 1776? Our 250th birthday is coming up. We told England, screw you, we're taking this back. But a lot has gone wrong since then. But recently, Donald Trump, he didn't pass a bill. President Trump, he didn't pass a bill, people. He made an executive order. Now, presidents are allowed to make executive orders. They can make any executive order they want. Whether it stands is another story. And this was the 10 minutes I was talking about the history of the beginning of the USA. I'm leading up to what's going on today with President Trump and his new order where you cannot burn the American flag. You are not allowed to burn it, people. He made an executive order. Now, like I said, the president can make any executive order, but it can be contested and go to the Supreme Court, and the 9 people on the Supreme Court will say, yes, that's good, or no, that's bad. Just like when Obama came up with what what we call his Obamacare. That was very highly illegal of him to do that. But it went to the Supreme Court, and it was upheld 5-4 decision because it was considered the largest tax increase in American history, which is what it was. And that's how it got through. They said, it's a tax increase. It's a tax. Basically, you're taxing the poor, taxing people that don't have health care, and fining them for it. But the Supreme Court said, since it's a tax, his executive order stood. And Trump's executive order on the flag burning is going to go to the Supreme Court. It's already being contested. And it's not going to stand, people. In 1989, the Supreme Court said, you can burn the American flag. You are allowed to do that. Freedom of speech. The First Amendment covers that. And I know a lot of people out there don't like that. They say, well, it's America. You're disrespecting America. Well, maybe America's disrespecting these people burning the flag. You don't know. And then you come back and you say, a lot of good men died for that flag. A lot of good men have died because of that flag. I grew up during the Vietnam era, and I watched a guy come home in a wooden overcoat. Came home in a cardboard box. I watched them pull up to his dad's house and give him a flag. And yes, you get a little bit of life insurance money for that. Now, we all watched. This kids were riding our bikes out there. He was 19, drafted, went to Vietnam. Nice kid. Nice kid. Really nice guy. And we looked around and we're like, wow, that could be any of us. We're looking at some of the older kids going, that could be him. That could be him. I was like, why? Why did they send these boys to Vietnam to die? It just wasn't right, man. It was sad. And you get that little flag, and some of us know what it's like to get that little flag, you know. It's like, ooh, you got a flag. Here, son, here's a flag. Your old man or your brother did a great job protecting our country. Protecting the country from what? Communism? 5,000 miles away from me? Give me a freaking break. If they really wanted to go after communism, should have gone into China and Russia, attacked them. But they wouldn't, because they had American interest over there. That's what Vietnam was all about. Money. Money. Couldn't find a job for you here, so we'll send you over there, boy. Some of us know what it's like to have one of those flags. To know one of your family members died. For what? My mom held onto that flag for many years. I threw it away. As soon as I could, when I was able to. I threw it away. That flag doesn't mean anything to me. It's a slap in the face, man. And it's a slap in the face to a lot of individuals out there. So I feel if you want to burn the American flag, you have the right to do it. First Amendment. And I don't feel anybody should be upset with you doing it. It's your right. I hope you paid for the flag. I hope that the flag you bought was made in America, because the cheaper ones are made in China, so don't cheap out. And if you're protesting America, I get it. A lot of people get it. And the big problem is a lot of people cry about everything going on, but they don't do a damn thing to try to fix it. That's what's wrong with our society. Everybody just whines and complains, but nobody offers a solution. We all know what the problems are. So if you want to burn an American flag in protest, go for it. But here's the deal. I hope you have the right to burn a gay pride flag, a France flag. If you want to burn the Canadian flag, go for it. But make sure they're made in America, okay? If I want to burn a Palestine flag from that fake country in the Middle East that's never existed, I have the right to do that, don't I? So don't you get mad at me. So if you're going to burn an American flag, you better respect everybody else and give them the same respect they're giving you and the same rights when they burn a flag of a country or culture you don't like. You got that? I'm telling you the truth, man. Because a lot of you guys get upset when you do something and say, I have the right to do this. But then when somebody else does it, it's like, you can't do that. You can't say that. Okay, all right, we get it. You don't like what they say because you disagree with it. Well, I might not like what a lot of people say. And yeah, I might not like the fact you're burning an American flag, but I do believe you have the right to do it, covered in the First Amendment. That's why people came to this country, for freedom. And our freedoms are getting taken away more and more each day. And you got people out there, they don't vote. They don't get involved. They don't call or write their congressmen. They don't call their senators. They don't write the president. You can write him, you know. I've got letters back from presidents. They will write you back. They appreciate it. You know, we all have problems, but there's a solution for every problem, and nobody's offering any. All I ever hear is people crying. I get it. You don't like Trump, so he's saying this about the American flag. I don't like that he's doing it. It's going to get overturned, but here's the deal. Other presidents in the past have done worse. Presidents that lean to the far left. Let's talk about the wars. Which presidents have started more wars? Trump hasn't started any wars. Barry Obama started a lot of wars. Billy Clinton started a lot of wars. Don't forget Bill Clinton got impeached and is a rapist. But you come back with Donald Trump is a 34-time felon. All right, but he didn't get convicted of anything, did he? You know, and this is the big problem. People only see one side. And it's like Voltaire said way, way back in the day. I may not agree with you, and I'm paraphrasing. I may not agree with you or believe the way you do, but I will defend and stick up for you for your right to say it. And that's how I feel. I might not agree with you, but you have the right to say and believe what you want. But you better respect the way I feel. You better give me the same respect that I'm giving you. I'll stick up for you and your rights, so please stick up for me and everybody else's rights, all right? Because we're all in this together. You're a United States citizen just like me. You got a problem with America? Let's fix it. Do something. Offer a solution. You know, you got a problem somewhere else? That's okay. You got a problem with the president? Okay. He's not perfect. Nobody is. But don't forget what other presidents have done. And don't make excuses, because that's what most people do now. If it's your guy, it's okay to do it. And here's the deal. If it was Biden that did this, there'd be people saying, well, I understand why he's doing it. I get it. You know, it's a safety hazard. Yeah, there'd be excuses. When Trump does it, we get it. You hate the guy. You got excuses and you hate the guy. We get it, all right? But don't be a hypocrite. That's what's wrong with this country, and that's what's wrong with our society. Hypocrisy is one of the biggest problems out there. All right? My words ring true. What I say is the real deal. Peace.